SmartBones is a function inside of Anime that was originally created to deal with issues around bending geometry. What I'll do is create a bone layer, we'll see what goes on, and then we're going to engage SmartBones because not only can it fix joints, but it can add some specialty animation automatically so you never have to deal with it again. Another way to help control your time management as you work on animations. So I need to create a bone layer, and I'll come down and do that. And it really doesn't matter what you name it. Let me go ahead and name this SmartBones, and I'll drag this to the top. I'm going to take these other two layers and put them inside that because, of course, they need to be within a bone layer in order to function. Now, before I get going, I need to call your attention to this basic shape. I drew a rectangle, but then, as I've mentioned earlier, in order for bones to work successfully in bending the geometry, you have to give enough points to the program to know where to bend and how to handle that. If I just had the 4 points of the rectangle, all this would do is shear like a parallelogram. So by adding these extra points, it's giving me some ways to go ahead and animate, to tell the program, okay, here's a point that you can bend on, that type of thing. I have smoothed these points out using the curve tool after I went ahead and inserted them in there. With that said, let's come up to the SmartBones area, or the name of the bones layer, and I'll simply add 2 bones, one that ends about in the center, and then another one right after that. Now the program automatically names the bone files from B1 until you stop. You can rename these things, so if I wanted to rename this, I could go forearm. Okay. I bring that up because for the SmartBones to work successfully, you need to pay very close attention to the bones. And when we get to rigging, I bring up the fact that naming the bones is a very good thing so you can remember or quickly identify which ones they are. What I'm going to do is highlight this and copy it. Up to edit and use that copy menu, or you can use your keyboard shortcut. With that done, we are going to open a new window we haven't looked at before called Actions. And actions, you may scratch your head and go, what does a SmartBone have to do with an action? Well, actually, the function we're doing is really a miniature animation. And because it's an animation, it's like an action that gets called automatically when it's engaged. So what I'll do now with the Actions palette open, SmartBones tab selected, is click the little New button and we will create a new action. This is where I'm going to paste in the name of that bone. So with that done, I'll click OK. We can come over and grab our bone rotation tool right now. And you can go ahead and shrink the bone if you want to like this. You can do all sorts of things here, as well as bend it. And we can see now that we get this strange kind of what's called pinching here. Well, we're going to fix that. With this bone bent and our highlighted forearm action taking place, I'm going to come down to Arm and use my regular drawing tools to reposition some of these points. I'll click off the object so they're all deselected, but now I'm going to start moving these around, and as I look at them, by George, it looks like they're not particularly smooth. So I can go ahead and grab this and smooth that out. I'll smooth this point as well, and I'll move around and grab all of these, which I thought I had done earlier, but I haven't, so we'll fix that. Just wanted you to see now that you can fix this dynamically. Come back to our Translate Point tool. Move this around a little bit. Tuck this in, pull this out. Maybe bow this just a little bit. Decide exactly how we want this to look, and flex the tricep just a little bit here. Maybe push this up and pull that down just a bit. So that's our initial action. We could go into the arm detail and do the exact same thing. This point here is bothering me. I'll fix that real quick, smooth that out. So when we go ahead and go back to the main timeline, we'll see this reset. So it looks normal, just the way it did before. But when we select the bones layer and grab the bone manipulation tool, I can go ahead and click, and this animation takes place automatically. And it will for as long as I happen to use this file. Big deal when you're working with caricature animation. So the next thing we can do is create a second action here. And what we'll do is go ahead and click New. And instead of Action 2, I'm going to paste in the name where the word action is, Forearm 2. The program understands that when you enter the name of the bone with a space and then the number 2, that you're creating another smart action that goes with that bone. So I'll choose OK. That gets highlighted right here. Now what I can do is say, okay, well, I'm going to start working with the bones. Let's go ahead and stretch this out a little bit. I'll bend it down. And now I can come back to my arm, grab the manipulate point tool. We don't want it to bend too far. That would be painful. Maybe we can pull this forward just a little bit. Create a slightly different look. I'll bring this down. Maybe bend that a little bit. You know what an arm looks like when it gets slightly hyperextended. Ah, it looks painful. I can actually grab this point and narrow it down if I want. With that done, when I go back to the timeline, by clicking on the top of the Actions palette, choosing the Bone Layer Top, I can grab my Bone Manipulation tool, and now we have magically 2 actions that take place when we move this bone around. And that's working with Smart Bones inside of Anime Studio Pro.